Thanks for stopping by to check out this online demo of the Farmbrite crop and crop management software. I'm going to take you on a tour of all of the different crop features in the system. We're going to first take a look at some of the setup. That's how you can define your different fields and the crops you grow, and then create your plantings and take a look at the crop plan for the season. After that, about halfway through this video, we'll move on to see crop management features for things like treatments, soil samples, and harvests, as well as accounting transactions and reporting. All right, let's get to it. Let's start by navigating to plantings from the left navigation menu. You'll see 5 main sections here. You can add your crop types and individual plantings under My Crops and define where you're planting them, your beds, fields, greenhouses, and more under the Grow Locations section. The crop plan will show you a high-level overview of your season with what, when, and where you're planting. And the location map is an aerial view of your farm that helps you visualize your grow locations. You also have a yield comparison report that compares breeds of different crops so you know which one produces best for you. Now, we've already added a lot of data to this account, but when you first start, these will all be blank for you to start configuring your farm. It's up to you if you want to start adding new crops or grow locations first, but we might suggest starting with grow locations. This is because you'll define the space you have available to plant, which might help you plan what crops you'd like to plant. Many Farmbrite users find that having the farm map visualized helps you get a lay of the land and plan to utilize your property to its fullest potential. To create a grow location, click on New Location, and then give it a name. We'll then add some details about the grow location. You can choose what type it is, whether it's a field, greenhouse, grow room, or more. And then you'll make an important selection to decide your planting format. You can read the descriptions to decide what's best for you, but if you have a market garden with many different kinds of crops, you might choose planted in beds. If you're growing a single commodity crop, you might choose row crop. If you're going to plant a pasture with a cover crop to harvest hay and feed your animals, you'll probably choose cover crop, or you can use other for many other types of unique situations. We're going to use planted in beds in our example. So what we're really defining is that Southeast Field A is broken into 5 beds that are each 100 feet long and 3 feet wide. The number of beds, bed length, and bed width are all customizable for your unique layout. And if the beds aren't all the same size, don't worry, you'll be able to update them individually later. You can supply the acreage if you know the size of the entire field, but we'll see in a minute how Farmbrite will automatically calculate this for you when we map the field. You can also choose a status and a light profile. And if we had planted a cover crop for our livestock to graze, we could also add how long we would prefer this field to rest until it was grazed again. Let's save. And now we have a new field added that we could either map or skip and get right to planting. Let's go ahead and map it. The map will load based on your farm address, and you can always zoom out and then move the map if you need to map a grow location in a different area. We're going to outline our field, and we'll see it automatically connected to the grow location we just created. Also note the acreage calculation here as well. We'll save, and then scroll up, and we can use the Next button to add plantings. You heard me say a minute ago that you'll be able to update the size of the beds. You saw when we just mapped the field that the bottom bed was maybe a little bit shorter. So I'm going to go to bed 5 and choose Edit. And instead of 100 feet, we'll make that 80 and then save. And you'll see the square footage of the bed automatically updated. And if you needed to add more beds to the grow location, you can click Add Beds here. The beds added would be in addition to the ones already set up. Now that we have a grow location defined, the next step would be to plant crops in it. However, be aware if you'd like to create more grow locations before creating any plantings, that's totally fine too. You could define all your fields and all of your beds, and then take a look at the location map to get a sense of what you have available to use. And if you want to get even further detailed with the map, you can also add your beds and connect them with that existing grow location. After you've optionally defined more grow locations and added to the map, when you're ready to add plantings, navigate to My Crops. This is where you'll define what you'll be growing. And that's an important distinction. Since you can have the same crop planted in multiple fields or beds, you'll likely want to track those plantings individually, but also want a comprehensive summary of the crop type overall. The crop type also houses information that is applicable to all of your plantings. To add a crop type, click New Crop Type. Farmbrite comes preloaded with hundreds of crops for you to choose from. You'll find many varieties of vegetables, lots of different fruit trees, and herbs and flowers as well. The seed packet details for these crop types that you find here are also preloaded in the system. But don't worry if you can't find what you're looking for, as you can always add your own unique crop types and supply those details yourself. Just type what you want to name it, and it will be added as a crop type. In our example, we're going to grow some peppers, and we'll define the variety as Hatch Green Chili. You can optionally supply an internal ID for harvest traceability, but if you don't add it, one will automatically be generated for you. You could add another crop type right now if you wanted to, but we'll move on to planting details. And this is where we see all the preloaded details from the Farmbrite Crop Dictionary. Things like how many weeks to start your seeds before your last frost, how long those seedlings take to emerge, the spacing for when they're planted, its light requirements, and the days until the plant is mature enough to harvest. And if you want to account for unique needs for a unique variety or your specific climate, you can always update any of this information too. And one quick note about frost and measurements. While we're on this page, you can configure your hardiness zone and the measurement units within your Farmbrite account settings. So it's easy to switch this to metric if you'd like. You can also choose your start method. You might direct sow some crops, while others are started in trays, or it could be perennial bulbs or even grafted trees. And speaking of perennials, if we were creating something like a fruit tree or a berry bush, we could mark this crop type as a perennial, and our planting of that crop type would be retained season after season. It's also important to choose how you harvest this crop. Bales, bushels, ounces, pounds, or tons might be applicable. And for budgeting and forecasting, you might supply how much you think you can sell a single harvest unit for. In this case, we might get $2.50 a pound for these special hot peppers. And also related to forecasting, you might input your expected yield per 100 feet or per acre. Then we can save, and we'll be brought to that crop type to add a planting. If you ever needed to change any of the crop type details that we just saw, you can go to the Details tab and edit anything that you need. Now that we have our crop type defined and we've created a grow location, we can now plant these peppers in a bed in Southeast Field A. There are a few different ways for you to start that process. We'll take a look at each of them right now, and in the end, it's kind of up to you which one you find easiest. First, right from this page in the crop type, we can choose Add Planting, and then select our grow location. You'll see that Farmbrite has used some of the data that we supplied in the crop type to pre-fill important planting details. It's used our hardiness zone and frost dates to determine the best time to plant it, and then used the plant spacing and the size of the bed that we selected from our grow location to calculate how many of these peppers can fit in that bed. You could change this if you don't want to plant the whole bed with this crop, but for now, we'll fill up bed 5. Also note the option at the top for number of plantings. If you'd like to set up succession plantings of this crop in this grow location, you can define how many plantings you'd like to create, and then the days between them. This helps ensure that you get maximum utilization of this grow location and this crop during your season. We'll go back and just leave this as 1 though, and scroll down, and see that Farmbrite has used the days to maturity on the crop type to determine your planned first harvest. It's also used the expected yield per 100 feet to determine an expected harvest for the amount that we've planted. You can add additional details about the seeds if you need, and then choose if you'd like to add or update tasks for the planting dates. We think this might be useful for you, as it will automatically create tasks for the planting and harvest dates. We'll click Create Plantings, and that planting has been created. I want to point out that this planting is shown under future plantings. We're at the stage where we're planning to plant these crops, and it's before April 18th, 2024, when I'm recording this video, so this planting is shown on our future schedule. So now that we have bed 5 planted, let's learn some of the other methods to plant using the other beds. We'll choose the Actions button in the upper right, and we see choices to calculate plantings or bulk plant. Let's check out bulk plant first. You can use this feature to plant multiple fields and beds with the same crop at the same time. You'll first choose a planting date, and then how you'd like to measure the space available for planting. Then pick a location and a bed if applicable, and add how much of that bed you'd like to plant with this crop. We could then add another location. The same field is selected by default. This time we'll choose a different bed and plant the whole bed as well. You could continue adding locations, choosing different fields and different beds. And then, like we saw before on the individual planting, you can also add tasks for the planting date and estimated harvest dates. We'll create those plantings, and now see that we have 4 out of the 5 beds in our field planted with these peppers. Now let's take a look at calculating plantings. You could think of this as an estimation tool that works backwards. You might find this useful if you have commitments and deadlines for this crop, like fulfilling CSA shares. Rather than choosing when you are going to plant this crop, you add how much you need and when you need it, and then Farmbrite will automatically calculate how many plants are needed, when you need to plant them, and how much space you need for them. We can then choose an available location. We'll plant bed 1. We have enough free space there to meet our needs, but if we didn't, we could have added a location until we met our total. And of course, we'll want to add those tasks for our planting dates. And now see all 5 of our beds planted in this grow location. I still want to quickly show you 2 more ways to add plantings though. First, you can go up to Quick Add, and you can add a planting right from here. This works just like the Add a Planting button, where you'll choose your crop type and location, and then the details. And then we can also go back to Grow Locations and find our field, and see that we can create new plantings here too. We don't have any free space, so I'm going to create 1 bed, and when I click New Planting, we'll see a list of all of our crop types on the left. This works as a drag and drop. So I put the hot peppers into bed 6, and it's all pre-populated for me. And again, just like we saw before, all of the crop details are already here. I'll create the planting, and we'll see it added to bed 6. Now that our beds are filled with plantings, we can get a comprehensive view of our season under the crop plan. This chart outlines our entire year, showing us what we're planting, where we're planting it, and when we're starting it, watching it grow, and harvesting. This helps you prepare for your season at a glance to make sure you stay on track. Now let's take a look at the day-to-day operations of your plantings and grow locations. We'll apply treatments, record soil samples, and create tasks and events to remind you of what needs to be done. We'll examine how you record accounting expenses to generate a profit and loss statement for your individual plantings, crop types, and grow locations, and how you'll keep files and photos associated with them as well. And when they're ready, we'll also learn how to harvest the crops and add them to your inventory. Let's navigate to plantings on the left, and then select grow locations. We see a list of all of the grow locations we've previously created, and can easily see what is currently planted in each with the icons that are displayed. Be aware that the features we will see in this video apply to any of these, whether you are growing perennial fruit trees in an orchard, or pasture grass as a cover crop for grazing and harvesting hay, or even flowers or herbs in hydroponic tables in a greenhouse. We're going to use Southeast Field A as our example, and we'll immediately see our bed layout and plantings. We've planted a market garden in this field, with varying start dates and days to maturity. We've planted some for succession plantings like this spinach, and others for large harvests at the end of the season like our tomatoes and peppers. Notice all of the additional options shown in the left-hand menu for this field. We can record treatments, take nutrient samples, view our scheduled events and tasks, jot down quick notes, and add accounting transactions. Since these are all at the grow location level, our southeast field A, these should be used to track things that apply to all of the plantings we just saw. We will see later in this video how you do many of these same actions on a per planting basis, but for now, let's take a look at how you can track the progress of this field with these features. First, let's take a look at recording treatments. We'll create a new one and see that you can use the treatment to record things like applying herbicides or pesticides, and treating mildew, mites, mold, and a lot more. You can add details about the product that was used, and add how much was used in the treatment. If you track the product that was used in your Farmbrite inventory, you can easily subtract from the amount that you have on hand. We'll choose how and where we applied this treatment, and then optionally choose a retreat date. We might want to reapply this insecticide 2 weeks later. Farmbrite will automatically create a task for it on that date. You can also optionally include a cost for the treatment if it costs you anything above the inventory usage that we just recorded. For example, if we had a technician come to spray that insecticide, we might associate a cost for their services here as well. And we can choose to record that cost as an expense associated with this crop. We can write a quick description and optionally add a keyword and then save. And once you have some treatments recorded for this field, you might use the filter to find just specific ones that you're looking for, perhaps applied within a certain date range, one that used a particular product, or treatments applied by specific farmhands. The Nutrients tab is a similar concept, in that you'll be adding a soil amendment to the field and tracking what was applied. You can also record soil samples here, and those samples are displayed in the charts on this page. We'll add nutrients, and then record details about what was applied. Common elements and minerals are listed below, and you'll record the ppm amount that was added. We'll save, and see our record created. You could always go back and edit this if you needed to. We'll fast forward a couple days and record a soil sample. You'll see this is very similar. We'll record the ppm of each of these nutrients, and then save again. Our sample is recorded and then added to the charts. These can help you see changes over time and draw a correlation between the amendments and results. The next 3 sections are all related. You can schedule calendar events, create tasks, and take notes for this grow location. The connection here is that they all help you remember to do things and keep track of important information. The schedule is a calendar for this particular location. It will show you tasks and events associated with it. As an example, check out the planting tasks that were automatically created for our pepper plantings, and the task that was automatically created to retreat this field with the pesticide from the treatment that we saw earlier in this video. You can add a new event or task here as well, or you can click on the calendar to choose a specific time. Since we're creating this event directly from the grow location, it will automatically be associated here. You can also choose if this event repeats. We could select that this event happens monthly and have it repeat every month until the end of our season. We'll create the event and see it added here, and then fast forward a few weeks and see it repeat. This repeating feature can be very helpful for you to remember to weed fields, apply fertilizers, or scout your locations. Tasks are very similar and will show up on your schedule if they have a due date defined. We can also see a specific task list, showing us things like starting seeds, treating fields, and harvesting. Tasks also have some additional features that can help you track the progress of what needs to be accomplished for this location. You'll give the task a name, and then add a status. You can assign it to one of your farmhands, and communicate its importance with a priority. You can also set a due date and time, and like the events, choose if it repeats. We can write a quick description, and if the task has multiple steps or prerequisites, you can also create a checklist of subtasks. These subtasks can be individually assigned to your farmhands, and anyone who is assigned here or has the main responsibility for the task can also get notifications about these tasks in a daily summary email. You can even map exactly where the task needs to be completed, and add attachments to help get it done. Once added, you can also easily see these field-specific tasks and events on your main Farmbrite task list and schedule. Next, if you just need to jot down a quick note about this field, you can write it, categorize it, and then optionally assign it as a task. We can publish it to the schedule, and then add locations or attachments like we saw with the tasks. This task connection helps you make sure that you action the results from your scouting. You can record your findings and then be sure to follow up. Next, let's take a look at the Accounting tab. This is where you can record your expenses and income for this field. When you record a transaction, notice that it is already associated with this grow location because we're adding it from this page. We'll choose if this transaction is an expense or income, supply an amount, and then add information about who we paid or who the customer was. We can then categorize it, or if necessary, split that transaction into multiple categories. Of course, things that we've already seen apply here as well. You can add keywords, a description, or an attachment, perhaps a receipt, and then add the transaction. This tab totals your expenses and income, and then provides a net profit amount. You can also run a profit and loss statement for just this grow location here as well. We encourage you to read through the accounting section of the Help Center before adding any transactions, as you may want to customize a chart of accounts to make your own unique accounting categories before you start recording expenses and income. And of course, you have a full accounting section in the left-hand menu that encompasses the financials for all of your fields, livestock, equipment, and a lot more. These transactions are specific to just this grow location. The last two sections that you'll see here are how you can store photos and documents that relate to this location. Perhaps you've taken a photo of some damage or issues you'd like to have a record of. You saw we had created a task earlier for some bug scouting. One of the subtasks was to upload pictures of anything we found. Or maybe you have something like a organic certification or a survey document that you'd like to store. You can upload PDFs, spreadsheets, and other file types here. Now that you have seen the actions that you can work with on a field, let's go back to the Plantings tab and select one of the individual plantings of our peppers. We're now presented with details about this specific planting. The secondary menu on the left gives us many of the same options we had just learned about, but these are now specific to this planting and not the field overall. Maybe we need to treat or take a soil sample just from one of the beds. Or maybe add a specific expense that these peppers incurred that wasn't applicable to the other market garden crops in the other beds. There is one more selection that you'll see here though, harvests. After you've used all the features that we've just seen to track the growth of your crop, we can then harvest them. Since the amount harvested is always associated with a particular crop and planting for traceability, you'll record harvest from here. You can supply the amount harvested and optionally add a batch number or trace number. Both of these help you track where this harvest came from after you add it to inventory. Farmbrite will automatically generate a trace number if you don't supply one. You can grade the harvest and estimate the revenue as well. This amount is pre-populated from the crop type details that you added when creating the crop type. You can save the harvest or add it to inventory right at this time as well. If you want to learn more about that feature and how you can trace it from the harvest all the way through the sale, check out our other video for traceability in our Help Center. Before you move on to that though, let's just see a few more features in this crop section. You should know that you can also work with a lot of the features that we just saw under the My Crops section as well. This section houses your crop types and gives you a comprehensive view of all of the plantings of that type across all of your grow locations. We'll choose those peppers again, and now see that we can view all of our current, future, and past plantings. We can also see all the harvests for this crop type, again from all of the plantings in all of our grow locations. You can also take notes or store photos, and associate accounting transactions with the crop type overall, if that's how you'd prefer to track them. The last section here is the yield comparison. This compares the yield from this variety to others from the same crop type. You can see our hatch green chilies, infernos, jalapenos, serranos, and dragon peppers. The harvests are tracked over the weeks of the season and then charted above. This can help give us insight into how productive this crop was compared to other similar crops. The last thing we'd like to highlight in this video are just a few more ways that you can add some of these records. Be aware that the Quick Add button in the top menu is an easy way to add a treatment, record a harvest, take some notes, add a task, or create accounting transactions. And if you'd like to do those things for multiple plantings at once, we'll go back to our grow location and use the bulk action tool to select multiple plantings and then add notes, treatments, nutrients, and harvests. You should now have a better understanding of how you can manage your crops. Please reach out to us with any questions. We're always glad to help out.